Marge Dean and Micki Harlow here from Passages. And they're gonna just talk to us a little bit about what Passages does and some of their new plans and so on. So go ahead, Marge.
Thank you. So I've been the director of Passages for 8 years now. And we started off taking women coming from the prison. And we adapted to, now we help women coming out of the prison, the county jail, the mission, treatment centers, drug court. So we're not just working with women coming from incarceration now. We're doing a lot of prison diversion more now than helping women when they get out of prison, so we can help keep them from going to prison in the first place. After there was a Senate bill that changed so they don't have to give the mandatory sentence for drug charges anymore, which is good because prison doesn't help their addiction. They just learn life skills there that don't benefit them out here. So, but the prison's still full of women, so we still get them from prison sometimes. So what we do is provide a safe living environment. They can live in the Passages home up to 18 months. We give them life skills classes, Bible study, they have to attend a church, they learn financial responsibility. Everybody gets a transition coach that helps them stay on track with their program work and make sure they're going to their recovery meetings. We just started a new policy because we've seen it with a few women doing it voluntarily. It works better to do 90 meetings their first 90 days in Passages. So that means AA meetings, NA meetings, Celebrate Recovery, Al-Anon, whatever meetings they need. And they take turns like doing chores in the house. So and they have a lot of accountability between their coach, me, and the assistant that's at the house 20 hours a week. When we have the most senior women, holds them accountable at night, make sure they're in by curfew. They have a curfew. So we transition them into more freedom. Every 3 months, their curfew goes out. They get a little more freedom every 3 months so that they can transition into independent living. For instance, after their first 3 months, they can have one night overnight somewhere with family or a close friend, a girlfriend, you know, if it's a safe place, and a clean and sober friend. And then after that, 1 weekend a month, going up to a week. And then their children can come visit them at Passages when they're doing well. Their children can come spend the night, depending on whether the house is under quarantine or not, and if there's room. And with COVID, it's really changed a lot of things and dynamics and Passages. We used to have 7 women in the house at a time, and we've been holding it to 4 because there's 2 bedrooms or 2 beds to every room, and there's no wall between those beds. So there's no way for somebody to quarantine if the house is full. If one gets sick, they're all going to get sick if we have it full. So we've been limiting it to 4. Hopefully we can open it up soon because I have 7 women on the wait list right now and 3 in the house. So I hate to only have 1 more bed. And talk about that later, but that problem will be solved soon. So, and they share 2 bathrooms. So it gets a little hard in that house with 7 women plus the office and 2 bathrooms. But I just talked recently about national statistics. 68% of the people, women and men, coming out of prison nationwide, 68% are back in prison in 3 years, which is really sad. And then within 5 years, it's 72% are back in prison. South Dakota's holding steady, much better than at about 43%. And that holding steady is a little bit deceiving because of the new laws that the judges have. They're just not sending them back to prison. So if a parole officer catches them relapsing once or twice or 3 or 4 times, they don't have to send them back to prison like they used to. so that there's a 20% increase in parole violations, that they're just not going back to prison. But we're still doing better in South Dakota than nationwide statistics, and Passages doesn't better than the state statistics so far. So, and we really believe that the only way their lives are truly going to change is if they get some grace from God and they come to know Jesus. The ones who go through the motions, they follow the rules, and attend church, but never do that surrender to Christ, are the ones that usually end up coming back to Passages. We let them come back. They go out there and they're struggling and they say, I need to come back. They can come back. But those are the ones who we see in that revolving door, that they just don't want to do that surrender. And the ones who do that surrender are the ones that we're seeing the really long-term success. So that's one of the things we just won't give up in our program. We turn down funding if we have to change that. So we want to keep that faith-based component, and God has been really good to us through that. I think it was 5-6 years ago, we turned away $110,000 to buy the current house we're in. The city awarded us a community development block grant to buy that house, and then a previous city attorney said, oh, look at the fine print. Right now, this city isn't going to stop them from doing faith-based, but if there's a turnover, it's in the fine print. This is federal funding coming to Rapid City to us. Somebody could say you can't have, or say they have to attend Bible study. And we heard from other programs that if we didn't make it mandatory, they weren't going to go, you know, and we want those seeds planted in them. So we respectfully declined the money. And now we've raised $800,000 towards building a new house. So God rewarded us for that. It took time and a lot of work, but we needed to have the footwork done and make sure we were going to be sustainable and be able to support a program that's bigger. So we had $300,000 from the Curavich Foundation, $300,000 from the Sunshine Lady Foundation, which I found on a fluke, and it said on their page, we don't support religious activities or programs. I can't remember how it's worded, but I wrote them a very honest letter and said, we are a faith-based program. The money we're looking for is to build the house, and this is what we do. And they gave us $300,000. So God is good. And we were donated land by the city of Rapid City. All the architecture drawings, the engineering, the landscape, site plan, everything, all that work had been donated to Passages. So it's a $1.2 million project that includes the cost of the land, all the drawings, all that work is included in that 1.2 million. We were just waiting on the cash, and now we have it. So one step for zoning that needs to be done, and then we should be able to break ground in about a month or less. So really excited about that.
And how many people will you have then?
The new building will hold 14 women. There will be a partial wall. It's floor to ceiling wall, but it'll go the whole length of the bed plus between each bed. So there'll be like a pod with 2 beds, but there'll be a wall between those 2 beds. Those 2 women will share a bathroom, they'll each have their own closet, dresser, bedside stand, and desk. So there will be 1 bathroom for every 2 women, plus a guest bathroom, and then there's a pod that has the 2 rooms for the resident assistant who will live there. She'll have that all to herself, so she can have a little living room, her bedroom, her own private bath, and then she can live there rent-free to be there to hold accountability at night and help be a mentor to the women. So there'll be 15 women in the house, plus a classroom, conference room, offices, everything under one roof. a walk-in pantry that's probably the size of the kitchen we have now. And it's on a pretty good sized lot, so there's room for growth. And the city, it was great, they wanted to make sure that there were no stipulations in donating this land to us. We had a timeline to have something built, and we'd have to give it back. But they wanted to make sure that if we ever outgrew that land, we would have the right to sell it. And I thought that was great. That was the only hesitation. We wanted to make sure that was in there. So if we outgrow that land, we can sell it and put the money towards a bigger. So we're excited about that, of having that growth and expanding our services.
Is it located in the metropolitan area or someplace halfway close so people can help serve?
It is. It's just east of the Journey Museum on First and Denver. So it's a big empty lot that's been just sitting empty for decades. It was, I think at one time, an old trailer court, and then they took that out and the city was going to build a rec center on it, and that never happened. So it's just been sitting empty.
How many of the women have children usually that?
Most of them will have children. Our youngest that we've ever had is 19. Our oldest woman, I think, was 67. So, and they range from 20s, 30s, 40s. Some of them will have adult children. Our most senior woman now has an adult daughter who's out of the base. And some of them are coming into our program expecting. We can't house children there, so we help them find, they can't stay after they have a baby. But a lot of them have lost all rights to their children. So there's a lot of grieving once they stop self-medicating. They have to work through all that grief. And that's one of the reasons it's hard for them to stop self-medicating. Some of them have children in foster care. And that's one system we need to start working with more, because I think the other change that I saw when COVID hit is they want those kids out of foster care and back with their parents, and they're pushing these women to do it too quick. And they're not ready to be a single mom and dealing with a house full of kids, and then they fail. So in fact, they told one woman she had to get her kids back within a month or she would lose them. We didn't have the room for them, 4 children. And so she couldn't find an apartment. And then they told her she could have the kids at the mission. So she moved into the mission to get her kids back. And she's really struggling now. She wasn't ready. She didn't have time to take parenting classes. She's never had her kids all to herself. She had them with her mother. And then her mom passed away. And then she relapsed and went to prison. She's never lived alone with those children. So we need to work with the system to, when they're in a place like Passages, let them stay there the full program when they're ready to graduate, then get their kids back so that the kids aren't brokenhearted. Because now, if she's in trouble again or relapses, they're gone for good. So it really puts the kids through an emotional roller coaster. And that's why we don't have kids at the house, because we don't want those kids to go through that emotional roller coaster. They need to transition slowly into being their mom. If they've been living in foster care for a year, it's hard for them to leave that safe place, go with mom. If they're really young, they really don't know her. So a slower transition into that reunion is so much better.
We in the past, we've done with this Angel Tree program with where we bought gifts for children whose parents were in prison. And we were talking about maybe, would that be something that would be of any use to you if we bought like Christmas presents for your women to give their children for Christmas?
That would be nice. We get money from the Chariots of Light Christian Motorcycle Group to buy Christmas presents for the women. They've done that every year for several years. And last year we got we put out a notice, we needed $25 gift cards for the women's kids. And we didn't have a lot of women in the house at that time, so that was fine. But if we have 14 women, it's hard to come up with the funding to help them do that. That would be wonderful.
Because it's, well, Cynthia could tell you more about it, but it's been kind of a challenge because sometimes we can't find the children. You know, it's quite a process, and we thought, well, maybe if we just did it locally, like with your organization or something, that it would, you know, work better for everybody.
Yeah, I'm sure they would appreciate it.
Are there other questions?
Where are you located right now?
We have a little house that we rent down on Quincy Street, on East Quincy, the last block of Quincy. It's a little yellow house with blue shutters, and it doesn't look very big, but it's got a very full basement with a door going to outside in the back. And so it's 3 bedrooms downstairs, 2 bedrooms upstairs, and we're using 1 bedroom for an office right now. I used to have an office down here upstairs in Catholic Social Services, but then I was getting too disconnected from the women. So it's really been helpful for me to have an office in the house. And then the other bedroom upstairs is bigger, goes to the senior-most woman. And then there's 2 twin beds in each of the 3 bedrooms downstairs. Plus there's an extra living room down there, or an extra TV room and study room and a laundry room. So we cram a lot into that little house.
So what will you do with that?
We've been renting that, and the landlord has said he's gonna sell it as soon as we're done with it. He would sell it today if he could. I think if he found a buyer that would sign a contract that would lease it to us until we have our new place built at the same cost he would. He's been very good. Well, Jim Spo is our general contractor, which is another donation that we've been blessed with. And he says he can have it done in 6 months, but we'll see how much rain we get this summer. So I'm thinking if we have it done by Christmas, we'll be very happy.
How do you get your referrals, or how do the women get, like, on your waiting list that you were talking about, or where do you get them from?
Good question. They start with the pre-application. They can fill out on our website or mail it in. Sometimes we get women applying that have just found us doing a Google search, looking for a transitional program. We get referrals from the prison, from their case unit managers, from parole officers, from probation officers. Drug court will send us women sometimes. There are several treatment centers when a woman is ready to leave and they say they don't think they can do it on their own yet, they'll refer them, and then word of mouth. We have one woman in the house who I think has 3 or 4 of her friends applying.
And if they get there and they decide, I don't like it here, I'm leaving, are there consequences? Like, do they go back to prison, or are they usually
They
on parole, or?
Yeah, they could. Sometimes if a woman has been through that revolving door of the prison and she's been accepted to passages, but she's failed at parole 2 or 3 times, the parole board has in the past, she's parole board ordered to passages, which means if she has to leave passages because she keeps breaking the rules or she just walks out, her only option is to go back to prison. So the other ones have to get permission, or they're supposed to get permission from their parole officer or probation officer. If they leave without permission, there's probably consequences. I don't think they're going to put them back in prison unless they've broken other laws. They used to, but I think because the prison is so full. And with COVID, what I'm hearing from parole and probation is that it's not that they're being more lenient. They're trying to have a little more grace because the rate of relapse nationwide has gone way up. Suicide rates are way up. Mental health issues are skyrocketing. So with that in mind, they're trying to give them more chances, more help, give them more mental health help, and not just put it back in prison because that's not going to help them. I talked to the former Secretary of Corrections in South Dakota, is now on our oversight board. And he said the worst thing that can happen to a woman who's lived a life of abuse and neglect and then gets into that cycle of addiction, self-medicating from that trauma, is to be grabbed up and thrown into prison. You know, that is just a nightmare for her. It's not the answer to her problems. So I think they're seeing that more now and trying to work with them more on getting to the core of why they're using the drugs and getting that issue resolved instead of just throwing them in jail, which is what we're trying to do, is get to the core of it and get that healing done. So anyway, that's where they come from. The pre-application process gives me an opportunity not just to get to know them better through an interview, but then I can tell them what it is they're signing up for so that they can decide if they're sure this is what they want, and then they are given a full application with a follow-up interview. So it's quite a process to get into the program. But we rarely turn women away unless it's somebody that I think we'd be setting up to fail by accepting them. If they need more assistance than we can provide them with, if they need severe mental health help, if they have a history of violence that might jeopardize the kids that come visit or the other women in the house, and we're just not set up to provide those services. So we try to help them find something else that's better suited for them.
Besides the meal once a month that we, or once a year that we provide for you, are there things that you need, that like donations of things, or?
Well, we used to buy food from the food bank, and we're not able to do that anymore because you have to spend a huge amount every month to continue that service. So we did have a ranch recently donate 30 pounds of ground beef from their ranch, and that helps. But sometimes we could use healthy food options, healthy proteins and things. If somebody wants to donate some meat, we have a big chest freezer in the garage. But bus tickets. They all need bus tickets. It's the little punch ones. So you can use them at any time. Toiletries, yes. Go through a lot of paper towels and Kleenex and toilet paper and
Everybody uses
shampoo.
toilet paper.
Yeah. Everybody uses toilet. We've actually been okay on toilet paper. We have a volunteer who brings in a huge bundles every month. But toiletries like, you know, shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, toothbrushes, toothpaste. We give them a welcome basket when they come in. And it's one of those cloth storage bin baskets. And we put in a pair of comfy pajamas, lounge clothes, like sweats or a t-shirt, and underwear, socks, shampoo, everything they're going to need. Especially, some of them come with absolutely nothing. And then we have, our garage is full of donated clothes. The new house will have 2 rooms that we can, storage rooms that we can put donated clothes and shoes in.
Takes over once the 90 days are up, but they're ready to transition into the community.
Well, we asked them to stay 6 months. They pretty much make a 6-month commitment when they come in. We have found that when we used to do it 90 days at a time, 90 days is a change-up time where they change up to the next stage of the program. But if they left before that 6 months, 50% of them fail. It takes 3 months to get the old habits out of their system. It takes another 3 months to start trusting themselves. We're barely gaining trust with them in 3 months. Then it really takes another year after that for them to learn how to use the new tools that they've been given. So that part takes practice. And at the end of 3 months, the first 3 months, they all feel so much better. And they, of course, they want to be out on their own, they're grown women, that they're just not ready to follow through with the stuff that they've learned. It's too easy for them to just go back to their old ways. So now it's a 6-month minimum for the program.
Is there follow-up after the 6 months then, when they're on their own? Are they, do they have like mentors or?
They can continue as a non-resident, which means they do everything in the program, and they just don't live in the house. They still have a coach, they still come to classes. And then we encourage the ones, even if they've finished that, so they finished the full 18 months, to sign on as a volunteer. They can be a mentor to an incoming woman. It's good for them, it helps them stay on track if they're passing it on to somebody else.
And are they to be looking for a job soon after they run?
It depends on the woman and what her circumstances are. Some of them really need, after a week, to be out job hunting. They don't do well with too much idle time. Some of them just need to be in the house, doing the program work, getting used to the routine, getting past the point of being able to handle temptations. And then we start on job hunting after that first 30 days. And then we expect them to have a job within a month. By the time they're there for 6-8 weeks, they're working. They've been getting jobs pretty easy. There's a lot of people around the city that are really good about hiring people with records. So we've had women lately call us and say, I need to change my life, and come to us like 10 days off that. We have one that had been using that for 20 years, and now she's 5 months clean and sober and doing phenomenally well. You know, so yeah, we've had one come to us still detoxing. She used the day before, and she's probably almost a year clean again. So we used to say they'd have to test clean before they came, and we're not doing that anymore because they don't have anywhere to go. So if they're, unless they need medical help, then we talk about a detox. But they're doing it. You know, they make that decision. I'm done. I need help. I'm going to change my life. They follow through. And then they do outpatient treatment while they're with us.
Are there any other questions?
When did you start?
We opened the house April 2013. The nonprofit and the planning started in 2008. Eight years next month.
And what's nice is we've been around long enough now that the police know who we are, the treatment programs know who we are, the prison knows who we are, the jail knows who we are. You know, many in the community, we keep that awareness going all the time, so they know who we are and what we do. And so we're excited to be on the other side of 8 years for that reason too, that, you know, this is a viable parole option, and you know, it's if there's a call from Passage to the police, they know who we are, right, and what's going on, rather than, because we're not marked down there. It's their home. We don't mark it as Passages. It's their home.
Just looks like any other house.
Just thought I'd add that. It's been a good 8 years of awareness to it, and the community has been very supportive. And you know, there's a lot of competition for the nonprofit dollar in this town. And people have been very responsive, so we're very grateful and thankful.
We've had such good, you know, support from the mayor's office, the chief of police, the sheriff, and when we first opened, the chief of police knew who we were, but the officers didn't. So after the first couple of times we had to call because somebody was high or drunk, and it doesn't happen very often, but we usually just call dispatch and their probation officer, and they come pick them up and hold them for 2-3 days and then bring them back. And the first call, they thought they were at the wrong place because it doesn't look like a facility. And then they said at the door, well, I don't know what you want me to do about it. Why are you calling me? So they took her down to detox and tested her and brought her back with a certificate saying she was positive. And they said, I know that, I've already tested her. You can't just bring her back here. And they said, well, we can't keep her, so she's yours. So the chief of police, I went and talked to him, and he graciously had me present to every shift change. So that every shift would know who passages is, what we want when we call them. And they've been great. We had officers come to the house and sit down and at the dining room table and spend some time talking to them and saying, you've got this beautiful place to live. You've got a life ahead of you. Why would you want to do this? And, you know, he even talked me into not making her go to jail. He said, you know, she's having a coherent conversation with me, you know, so why don't we go ahead and let her sleep it off here and see how it goes. And I thought that was great that he had, you know, wasn't just coming in and handcuffing her. But it's been a learning curve for everybody.
So big, fundraiser going soon.
We do, we are in our annual funding campaign, and how we used to do that is all of our board members and our volunteers would send in a list of names of people they were gonna contact, which they're kind of doing this year. But with COVID, a lot of people don't want to sit down or have somebody come to the home and talk to them about passages. So we're doing it kind of 2 ways this year. They'll send letters out. Some people will talk to on the phone and call, but we have it on our web page. So rather than a volunteer or board member giving somebody a pledge card to fill out, you can go directly to our web page, fill out the pledge card. And then people can pledge, let's say they want to give $1,000 this year, and they can give so much monthly and mail it in, or they can give it all at one time or quarterly. They can ask us to send us reminders. So we're kind of doing virtual and in-person phone call annual campaign this year. And that's really our biggest fundraiser. That's the one that brings in the most money out of all of them. And it's with the new building, which is wonderful, that also means we have to add staff. Because right now we have 1.5-time people, and if there's 14 women, we need 3 full-time positions, which will be 2 full-time and 2 part-time. So to add staff, we're really gonna need that operating fund money.
I think you can designate the building fund or operating sustaining fund to designate on the website to one or the other. Or even
I was gonna say, you don't have to, staff, but, provide beds and everything for all these new rooms too.
Right, beds, and dressers, and desks, and office furniture, linens, pillows, towels, dishes.
Well, if you keep me or Lois informed as the building gets done, you know, things that you need, we'll sure put the word out to people.
Thank you, that'd be wonderful. This church has been really good to us. We so appreciate it. So.
qualifications of people that can hire, what is their educational background, do they have
Well, yeah, but the woman I have working now has worked at nonprofits before. She's never worked with this population type before. So like our coaches have never had to, don't have any experience with that. We train them. Yeah, now, one of the positions will be Director of Case Management Services. That person, I would think, needs at least an associate, maybe a bachelor's degree in something that's appropriate to that. And because we're faith-based, we ask, you know, everybody about a statement of faith because we don't want mixed messages to the women. And so, and we consider ourselves a ministry. So it's important that anybody we hire is a Christian too. And then, so for that position, I think we'll be the only one that somebody would have to have some kind of experience and degree. And then, because we're gonna need so many more volunteers, we'll probably be hiring a half-time volunteer coordinator. So somebody, I don't know that they would have to have a degree or an experience as a coordinator, but at least experience doing a lot of volunteer work.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting
I'm
us.
sorry we don't have treats or something.
No, with this broken ankle, I've been eating way too much comfort food. So,
You can still be on the ice or-
yes.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, started off the new year with the bang.